When you buy a select DeWalt 20-volt max tool, get the job for less at Lowe's. We help, you save. Valid through 9/26. Varies by location. While supplies last. See associate at Lowe's.com for more details and qualifying items.
And you're here. Thanks for choosing the iHeartRadio and Coast to Coast AM Paranormal Podcast Network. Your quest for podcasts of the paranormal, supernatural, and the unexplained ends here. We invite you to enjoy all our shows we have on this network. And right now, let's start with Strange Things with Joshua P. Warren.
Welcome to our podcast. Please be aware the thoughts and opinions expressed by the host are their thoughts and opinions only and do not reflect those of iHeartMedia, iHeartRadio, Coast to Coast AM, employees of Premier Networks, or their sponsors and associates. We would like to encourage you to do your own research and discover the subject matter for yourself.
By the Wizard of Weird. This is Strange Things with Joshua P. Warren.
I am Joshua P. Warren, and each week on this show, I'll be bringing you brand new, mind-blowing content, news, exercises, and weird experiments you can do at home, and a lot more. On this edition of the show, I bet you haven't heard this wild story from 61. I just came across this tale and said, I think this might be perfect for my Strange Things audience. When I was a kid, one of my relatives bought me a wonderful gift. It was a subscription to Fate magazine, and I kept it for years, all growing up, and it made a huge impact on me. I think I remember the relative who bought it for me, but I don't want to say her name just in case I'm wrong, because I have a big family on both sides. I think she's passed along, but let me tell you, it was the gift that keeps on giving, because Fate magazine, if you don't know, it's the premier magazine of paranormal phenomena. It was co-founded in 1948 by Raymond A. Palmer, editor of Amazing Stories, as well as Curtis Fuller. It is the longest-running magazine devoted to the paranormal, promoted as, quote, the world's leading magazine of the paranormal. So we're talking about all of it, folks. UFOs, psychic abilities, ghost hauntings, cryptozoology. All of it has been covered in Fate magazine, including sometimes, debunkings. A very serious but a very comprehensive publication. And I learned through Fate magazine about some of the people who later would become my friends, like Loren Coleman or the late Rosemary Ellen Guiley. I'm going to get back to Loren Coleman a little bit later in the show, as a matter of fact. But, I remember all these years as a kid, eagerly awaiting the arrival of each edition of Fate magazine every month, and I would just devour it. And then finally, one day when I was a teenager, I said, I'm going to try my hand at submitting an article to Fate magazine. And I don't remember if it was the first one I submitted or not, but at some point I submitted an article, and it was accepted. And talk about exciting. To see this magazine every month for all these years, and then waiting for that day to arrive when you get the copy and there is your story with your name, maybe even your picture. Such a magical feeling of accomplishment. That does a lot for you when you want to be a writer. And so over the years, I started writing articles for them occasionally about a variety of things. I know I wrote one about the Amityville Horror. I think I may have written one about the Philadelphia Experiment. I don't recall, but I've got all of them archived somewhere back in Asheville. But it made a big impact on me. And in fact, so later on, when I got to my early 20s, I started producing these big paranormal conferences at the Grove Park Inn in Asheville. And I invited Loren Coleman and Rosemary Ellen Guiley and people like that to come and participate. And one of the people that I was astounded, was happy to accept my invitation to come down, was Phyllis Galdi. And she has been the owner of Fate magazine for over 20 years. And she came down to speak at this conference I produced, and I believe that was the first time she had been to Western North Carolina, and she began falling in love with it and eventually moved there. And from what I understand, she's still there. So that worked out well for everybody. But I bring this up to show you the respect for Fate and the connection to Fate that I've always had, as well as, I think just about anybody I know who is a colleague in this strange field, paranormal, the mysterious, probably has a connection to Fate. Well, for my birthday recently, my wife, Loren, bought me this gift. It is a paperback that has its earliest copyright in 1961. It's a used book. You can tell it's been thoroughly read, and it's called Fate's Strangest Mysteries, a true and startling chronicle of fantastic people and strange events science cannot explain, compiled by the editors of Fate magazine. It was only 50 cents when it came out. I thought, oh, wow, this has got to have some good stuff in it, some obscure stuff in it. So I started reading through this, and sure enough, I came across a story or two that I thought would be great to read on this podcast. But these are from Fate magazine, and so I needed permission. So I contacted Phyllis Galdi, and I asked her if it was okay for me to read maybe one or two of these stories occasionally on the podcast, and she said, absolutely, sounds good. So how nice was that of Phyllis Galdi to let me do this? So I picked a story that I'm going to read to you that's from 1961. And, you know, Fate magazine is still very active. If you haven't been there, go to fatemag.com, F-A-T-E-M-A-G, fatemag.com, because you can also, you can get issues that go back decades. You can get print issues, you can get e-issues. They do podcasting there. They have a bookstore. I mean, like, they have all kinds of stuff. So really, go check out fatemag.com and see all the good stuff that they're still up to. So I picked this story for you, and I don't even want to tell you what it's called, because I think the title kind of might spoil the ending a little bit. But I'm going to read this to you verbatim. And let me just point this out as a side note before I forget. You know, I was talking about how exciting it was starting out as a writer to see an article published in Fate magazine, and as I was preparing for the show, I was thinking about how it's kind of a shame that magic, that same kind of magic, doesn't exist so much anymore with the internet. You know, you get an article on a web page, and it's nice, but it's not like getting something hot off the presses in your hand. Maybe I'm just getting old, but here's another thing that I thought was a pretty exciting accomplishment for me. When I was growing up, another thing that I look forward to receiving every month was this catalog from the Johnson Smith Company. And the Johnson Smith Company was a mail order novelty company based in Chicago that sold gag gifts and all the old stuff, like, you know, the invisible ink, the x-ray goggles, the whoopee cushions, the fake vomit, the joy buzzers, all that kind of stuff. They eventually ended up in Florida. But I used to order weird things and gag stuff from Johnson Smith all the time. They even got to the point where they started carrying some paranormal things. And at some point, I got this wild hair, and when I was, again, probably like in my early 20s, I had bought a selection of EMF meters that I was using for ghost hunting, and occasionally I would sell them on eBay. And just on a whim, I contacted the Johnson Smith Company and asked them if they would be interested in carrying my ghost hunting meters. And we went back and forth because it was a very complicated process, a lot of paperwork, a lot of insurance that had to be dealt with. But yeah, they accepted it. And for a number of issues, my Joshua P. Warren How to Hunt Ghosts or whatever EMF meter was an item in the Johnson Smith catalog. And they published, they published 2 or 3 different things. Like they had a magazine called Things You Never Knew Existed, a catalog, Things You Never Knew Existed, one called The Lighter Side, one called Betty's Attic. So anyway, that was just another really amazing, like a very satisfying thing for me. And it turns out I didn't even realize it, but they're out of business. Said that they announced in 2019 that they had ceased operations and closed. So, oh well. But they had a long run. They were in business like 170 years, 114 years, something like that. I mean, my goodness. Yeah, those are the fun days. All right, actually, no, it said that they were in business a long time. Okay, so no, they were established in 1914. Well, Fate's still around, and this story is a good one. And so when we come back from this break, I'm just going to start reading it. And I'm going to tell you that it says here this takes place on the shore of Eastchester Bay. And it doesn't say specifically, but I'm presuming that is in New York State. I guess that's the one they're talking about. And it happens in the winter when it's nice and cold. And I bet some of you who are listening to this podcast are nice and cold right now. So you may have the mood set already for a story like this one. And I should point out that if you subscribe to my free e-newsletter, then you should have heard from me already about a special holiday treat that I'm doing for a little while, just this year, never tried it before, offering some holiday sigils that are specifically made for you to purchase for a loved one as a surprise.
And you can take that sigil and you can email it to them, or you can print it. We have a special thing you print out that will go into a Christmas card or a stocking. It's just a fun idea, or an idea that I had for what I think would be a fun thing. So if you want to stay updated on limited opportunities for things like that and get some other goodies from me, just go to joshuapwarren.com. There's no period after the P. Go to the Curiosity Shop and just check out everything that's there, because a lot of it's constantly selling out. A bunch of it's about to sell out right now. But on the homepage, you got to put your email address in there to subscribe to my free e-newsletter. Takes you 2 seconds. Put it in there, hit submit. You will receive an automated email from me instantly that has got links to some free online digital goodies that you can use right away to start helping you make your life more magical and manifest things that will improve everything for you and your friends and loved ones. So all that is through the free e-newsletter at joshuapwarren.com. That's me. You're listening to Strange Things on the iHeartRadio and Coast to Coast AM Paranormal Podcast Network, and I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. There's more Strange Things coming right up.
Tired of spills and stains on your sofa? WashableSofas.com has your back. Featuring the Animate Collection, the only designer sofa that's machine washable inside and out, where designer quality meets budget-friendly prices. That's right, sofas start at just $699. Enjoy a no-risk experience with pet-friendly, stain-resistant, and changeable slip covers made with performance fabrics. Experience cloud-like comfort with high-resilience foam that's hypoallergenic and never needs fluffing. The sturdy steel frame ensures longevity, and the modular pieces can be rearranged anytime. Check out WashableSofas.com and get up to 60% off your Anime sofa, backed by a 30-day satisfaction guarantee. If you're not absolutely in love, send it back for a full refund. No return shipping or restocking fees. Every penny back. Upgrade now at WashableSofas.com. Offers are subject to change and certain restrictions may apply.
Hey, what's up? It's Mario Lopez. Back to school, an exciting time, but it can also be overwhelming, and kids may feel isolated. Vulnerability that human traffickers can exploit. Human trafficking doesn't always look like the Jews back. Everyday moments can become opportunities for someone to add intentions. Whether a parent, teacher, coach, or neighbor, check in, ask questions, stay connected. Blue Campaign is a national awareness initiative that provides resources to help recognize suspected instances of human trafficking. Learn the signs and how to report at dhs.gov/. Joshua P. Warren, beaming into your wormhole brain from my studio in Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada, where every day is golden and every night is silver. Ajia Sume. And a couple quick updates for you. Yes, our little dog Luna. It's pretty amazing. You know, we had this over a month ago that she's
we would never let the dog sit around and suffer. But yes, she's still got this tumor, but otherwise, I mean, she has a voracious appetite. She's very interactive. She's even playful. It's just, I mean, we are just now watching and wait to see how long and how far this miraculous process can go. But we've been giving her every medicine we can get our hands on, every supplement. You've all been helping, so just please keep praying for her, and at some point I'll give you a complete update. It's amazing. Secondly, I think it was on my last podcast where I mentioned the episode of Strange Things that I did one time about the story of the real Ebenezer Scrooge. It's been a favorite, and I couldn't remember what episode it was. It's episode 58. So go to wherever you listen to this podcast, Strange Things, and if you go find episode 58, you will hear me tell the story of the real Ebenezer Scrooge. It's a good one. And now, here's another story for you. I kind of doubt this has ever even been read on any radio program or podcast, but you're about to hear it thanks to Phyllis Galdi. Faith's Strangest Mysteries. This comes to us from many years ago, 1961. This is by Eleanor Weissman, as told to Pauline Kappel-Perlusik. I have always thought of myself as a down-to-earth, practical sort of person. One of my favorite quotations is, "Seeing is believing." That is why this particular thing has thrown me into such confusion. We live in a large, old-fashioned house on the shore of Eastchester Bay. Our front lawn extends down to the water's edge. In summer, it is so lovely that our friends turn green with envy at our splendid location. In winter, they think they're lucky stars that they decided to settle further inland. It was on a winter Friday, January the 6th of 1961, that this phenomenon occurred. I call it phenomenon because I am timid about using the word miracle. My oldest son, Charlie, who is 7, fell off his sled and came in crying, holding his head. A big boy had deliberately forced his sled into a tree, he told me. I sympathized and ran to the refrigerator to get some ice cubes. I wrapped them in the dish towel and pressed them to his forehead. Don't worry, darling, it will stop hurting in a minute. If you press the ice on your bump, it will go down, I told him. He sobbed hysterically until I took a dish of chocolate pudding from the refrigerator, squirted it with cream, and plopped a cherry on top. He stared at it with delight and promptly forgot his pain. He wiped his eyes, rubbed his nose with his sleeve, and he was covered. I sighed with relief, took up the ice cube tray that I had emptied for the compress and refilled it with water. I clearly recall returning it to the freezer because on the way I dripped some of the water, and I remember feeling very annoyed because the floor had just been waxed. Later, in the afternoon, my husband called from the office to tell me he was bringing 2 clients home for cocktails. After I hung up, I checked the liquor cabinet to be sure we weren't short on anything. But then I checked the refrigerator freezer again to make sure we'd have enough ice cubes for the cocktails. All 8 trays were full and frozen hard. I then went into the living room to do some mending. I took out my sewing basket and sat down at the picture window. Our living room overlooks the bay, and from time to time I raised my eyes from my sewing to look out. I could see several. One abnormally cold spells follow another. And this last cold spell already had lasted 2 weeks. Along the shore was frozen gray, nubbly and irregular. As the tide fell, it cracked in great chunks and rested on the sand. And when the tide swelled, it lifted in bulky masses, and the splits between the great ice islands refroze. I always disapprove of children skating or even walking on the ice. I never allow any of our children to do it. I know how unpredictable saltwater can be. It seems more treacherous than ever. As I sat and looking out, I felt myself becoming tense, anxious. It disturbed me so to see the children skating on the ice that I decided to get up and begin fixing things for our guests to nibble on. While I was standing in the kitchen, Charlie and Bobby, my younger son, both tore through the door screaming, "The tree, Mama! We hit the tree again!" Bobby, hopping up and down beside Charlie, roared. He pushed me. He roared, "He pushed me! He pushed me into the tree!" "Get some better with Mom," shrieked Charlie. I ran to the sink for the towel and opened the refrigerator door. I stepped back, gasped. It was completely empty. Trays but there was no ice in them. I checked and rechecked. The ice had vanished. I slammed the door and turned to the children. Ice, ice, they chimed together, creating a nerve-wracking uproar. I did not have time to give much thought to the mystery of the missing ice cubes. I said, all right, wait here. Running out of the kitchen door, I added, there's plenty of ice outside. I ran down the front lawn to the beach, and there I got down on one knee and clawed at the broken, loose chunks of ice. I laid several large pieces on the towel. Then, just as I was rising, I heard a muffled shriek. I searched the shore with my eyes, and just a few feet from the end of our boat dock, I caught a glimpse of red. I strained my eyes and was sure I saw a red mitten wave in the air. Horror clutched my heart. I ran out to the end of the dock, slipping and stumbling all the way. Just a yard from me, I now saw the red mitten gripping the edge of a hole in the ice. A little girl was struggling just for the water. She was being sucked under by the toe of the tide and the weight of her wet clothing.